called television.
Brother Charles is home. His mood's as black as his skin. He done the man's time, paid the man's price. Now he's back on the street, looking to even some scores. Welcome home, Brother Charles. The most outrageous, terrifying movie about the black experience you'll ever see. It tells it like it is, and the way some people think it should be. Welcome home, Brother Charles. When they're nailing the lid down on you, not much to lose by fighting back. Brother Charles has a secret weapon. His victims couldn't talk about it, their wives wouldn't. After you've seen it, you will. Welcome home, Brother Charles. They tried to take everything he had, including his manhood. A Crown International picture, rated R.
We got Spanish speakers. Hey, can you hear us? Hey, welcome,
Peace and blessings,
welcome, family.
Yeah.
So we're back. How are you guys doing? What area code? What country you guys in? Hey, I don't see as well. JCR Lover, Daniel Martinez, David Durham, Tremaine Cornier. Room is filling up good. Back and better than ever. I think sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. Is that what they say, Charles?
Yeah. Forgive me if I'm in a zombie-like state, but you know what happens when you eat a lot? You get that, you know what?
He's trying to accuse me for being hungry. That's not fair.
Nah.
The food here is good.
Every time I'm with this guy, I gotta go back home and go on a 3-week diet.
You need to be working out, running, jumping. 612-206. Albany, New York. That's not far from you, Charles, is it? Is that the capital, Albany?
Albany is the capital of New York.
I said it wrong. It's like aunt and aunt.
No, well, aunt and aunt. Either way, pronunciation is correct.
He says Albany. I say Albany. So, Umoja, who's right? Hey, everybody. So, Lafayette, Louisiana. I guess we picked a good time to jump on.
Oh,
Ecuador. Daniel.
Louisiana. We have someone from Louisiana.
Oh yeah, how's the rain?
Be safe. God bless.
The topic, we've been away for 3 weeks. And this is the first time Charles's podcast with me, what, about 2 months, maybe 3 months?
I have no idea.
It's been a minute. We've been waiting for this moment for a while. As many of you may be aware, the channel was disrupted. We had our service interrupted because of copyright strike claims against the channel. We were actually I talked about this on Instagram, but that video went away. So we had unprecedented growth. 3 months in a row, we were growing like this, and really great numbers. And then I woke up one morning and we had a copyright strike. Can't name the party because we worked it out with them. And then the next day, the same party hit us again, even though I had made the videos private from that series. So within the space of 2 days, we had 2 copyright strikes. YouTube rules, you get 3 strikes, they suspend the channel. And if you continue to suspend or you don't get the strikes worked out with the person who claimed them, then you could go away forever. So there was a little bit of stress. I would say quite a bit of stress for the first few days. And then, started to come to terms with the fact that, okay, well, with our intentions, I think we're doing the right thing. And in terms of due diligence, we always do research. We're not, like if something came on TV last night, you're not going to see us upload it. We look for ephemera, things that you were there to hit play and record with, or would help with the topic of discussion that we're interested in, which is Black film, Black culture, Black consciousness. But, you know, we're not trying to be somebody's bootleg service or infringe on people's rights. Our intention is to promote dialogue and discussion. So we had 2 strikes, and then the inevitable happened. We were, you know, after 90 days, the strikes can wear off. You know, I had reached out to that person. Turns out they never got the message until recently. So as soon as those strikes came off, we were back in business. We still have another situation that we're dealing with that I talked about on Instagram. On Instagram, where there's another party that gave us a strike, and they're not returning any phone calls or emails from anybody. So, and ironically, they claimed that we had infringed on their video, but the reality is it was a video that Charles had that was a camera master. So it was the same event, but a different camera person, different angle, much better quality. And also, ironically, that person who put the claim against us doesn't even have that same video on their own YouTube channel. So it was very frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think I came to terms with just the idea that we did everything we could in terms of intention, do the right thing, and knew that things were going to work out eventually. But it was the most frustrating thing for me was, you know, we have a big platform here, but my social media, you know, on Twitter, on Instagram is very, very small. So, you know, I get a lot of messages independently, like while we're trying to work things out, what's going on with the channel, and there's not enough people really reading the posts. And it was a little stressful for me to have to re-explain over and over that the channel didn't get taken away. It wasn't some conspiracy on the part of the powers that be, that it was really a mistake that we made, that we were in the process of working out. So we're back. What are your thoughts? And we'll get to some of these questions.
Well, right quick.
The picture looks great too. You look good, Charles.
Here's the issue I have. I get up one morning and I go to check the channel just to see how things are going. Because even though I may have contributed to some of the content on the channel, what Mike's done with Reelblack and the subscribers, the viewers, in so many countless comments, they're saying, oh, we love Reelblack for the diverse information that we can get at this one-stop shop channel. And so Mike works very hard to find things to put on the channel that may be from back in the past, something current. And the whole key is it's about information. You know, the unexamined life is not worth living. And when you have yourself different sources available to you, when you have for yourself different sources of information available to you, it helps to make you a better person if you go after information with objectivity. Now, sometimes people complain about the content because, you know, back in the day when things were done, there was always this Eurocentric perspective. And so a lot of what we put up there, we're not trying to endorse the content matter, but to present it for people to look at it and get an idea of how things were covered in the past. And a lot of times the past is prologue. You still see it in the information that's being filtered to us, that's being communicated to us. And so it's important to realize first and foremost is that a lot of this information that's old, we have no control over it, but it's for information purposes. And it's up to the individuals who watch this stuff to have their own perspective, to challenge it. And when you challenge information, that's when the growth begins for you as an individual intellectually, when you raise your consciousness.
Right. And that brings to mind 2 things. I mean, we'll get to your questions. Feel free to ask any questions. We're going to go through the whole.
But just let me make one closing comment.
Oh, go for it. I'm sorry.
With respect to what caused this channel to get shut down, there were some people that jumped to the conclusion that it was the Nazi YouTube people, or some white folks wanted to shut us down because we were too real black. My issue is, I told Mike, okay, we won't be bitter. We won't go into who really shut us down, but this crabs in the barrel nonsense that we want to dismiss as nonsense, it's for real.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone out there wants to say that we use their content, people use Mike's content. He doesn't get vindictive and shut them down. He notifies them and says, will you please take this off your channel, or if you're going to show it, let us have the credit because it's ours. But for an individual to be vindictive and say, this is my content, and you can't even get a response from this individual to say, okay, I'm sorry, I'll release this. And then at the same, in the same instance, you have these people looking for funding for someone to help them. Then I say you're a hypocrite and you're not worth the spit that can come out your mouth and have it be tossed your way, because what you're doing is you're hurting the information process. And if you're about information, you should never want to shut someone down who's helping to get the information out there. And if what you did was about getting the information out there, if you want it on your channel, you want to control that content, great. But don't be vindictive and don't be a dog to shut someone down. That, not even have the courtesy of responding to say, I'm sorry, brother, I'll release the strike and we'll go from there, because we were willing to help this person with their cause. And that's my issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, the process, I mean, I always say, and Charles, we always want success, right? We're not trying to, we were really close to 300,000. I think we're both super excited about that. And we're more, and for me, it's not, success isn't monetary per se, although clearly, having resources to do more is always good. But we started out doing this channel with no money coming in. So anything that comes in is a blessing. But, I try to avoid, when there are opportunities to try and get numbers up, I just look at the pattern. I don't necessarily want to chase clout in that respect, or feel that I'm operating in service of more views. But what was interesting about this second quarter of the year was that we had several viral videos in a row. And I always get excited about that one, because typically we might get a few hundred viewers for any given video. And then if it goes into the tens of thousands, it's great. We had a couple of videos in the last few months that were hitting hundreds of thousands. And to me, it wasn't, I couldn't, it's not interesting. It's not important to me. I couldn't care less if we put a video up and it doesn't belong to us. We didn't create it. The money goes to the creator. We're interested in the conversation. So I think that's what was exciting to us, that, wow, we're finally getting to a saturation point where we have viewership and intelligent conversation, and we're connecting people. And it's a platform where people can share their collective memory, as well as this emotional memory, I think, that you elicit with your mini lectures, where it's almost like the earliest days of hip hop, when Chuck D would say hip hop is like the rap CNN, because you had regions making the music and sharing information about what it was like to be Black in Houston, what it was like to be Black in the Bay Area, what it was like to be Black in Philly. And we never really had that kind of connection before. And I think the internet certainly opens it up for everybody. But I think what was really unique about our situation was we're not in the business of chasing clout. I really don't want to be antagonistic towards others, build hype up, build controversy, have clickbait titles, put ads every 3 seconds. None of that's important to me as much as sharing something, reading the comments, and then coming back with, oh, wow, this would be interesting too. So that's the process that we operate in. And, to be told, like I mentioned before, we had a situation with Tony Brown's Journal where they sent a strike in. And I wrote Mr. Brown. The next day he took it down. He said, I understand exactly what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to impede you from from any progress that you have. And I said, certainly, we want people to go to the Tony Brown website and subscribe to your channel. Whenever you're ready, please have somebody come on our podcast and share that information, because as you're saying, information is power.
Yeah. What I saw as the trajectory for us on the channel, as I told you, how can we professionalize Reelblack?
Mm-hmm.
How can we make it more important to the subscribers? And I always say that I go over the comments, I pour over them, and I learn so much from you, the viewers. And I'm saying, Mike, what can we do to really be more in touch with what's going on, and how can we bring other people into the conversation
mm-hmm.
who are respected or have an intelligent understanding of
right.
what's going on from a socio-political sense. So we look at what's been popular. We've had the debate with Dr. John Henry Clark, with what's her name, Mary Lefkowitz, I believe.
Well, that's the one that got us in trouble. You don't want to mention that one.
No,
Dr. Ben and
yeah, but the thing is, you look at that debate and you have a lot of the viewers saying, "Don't." That's not Dr. Ben. That's John Henry Clark. Don't mess with John Henry Clark. He's such a learned individual. You better have your stuff together when you're ready to go against John Henry Clark, because, as he said, I don't debate people who don't know anything, Right. And Dr. Ben, mm-hmm. Dr. Ben, he's read a lot, but his wit, he'll have you laughing. I said, man, you got to watch Dr. Ben. So there's one that was caught on mm-hmm. where Dr. Ben and Simmons, his partner, they're in between this moderator, and everyone's jumping on the moderator like, wait, is he playing devil advocate or what? Come on, he can't be for real. But Dr. Ben is laying it on him, and he's talking about Christ and all of this kind of stuff. When we did a thing where Dr. Khalid went against this guy on the Bible, and you look at the comments and said, man, Khalid came, man, he was ready. He had a whole library full of books to challenge this guy. This guy couldn't touch Dr. Khalid.
Well, unfortunately, that's one I took down for right now. So it is.
But here's the thing. As Mike said, we want to put things up that generate conversation. But I told Mike, there's some anecdotal things. I have some personal memories, because I was around Dr. Ben, around Dr. John Henry Clark. I studied under them at some point in time, and I had run off with information I learned from them. But the main person who really struck me was Ivan Van Sertima, who wrote "They Came Before Columbus." And I want to bring this to the attention of the subscribers to tell you the dangers of information if it goes unchallenged, and we just look at people who say the things we love to hear them say.
Yeah.
But if we don't challenge, I don't care who it is, if we don't challenge what they're saying, you can run off with BS the same way you can get it from a Eurocentric perspective, is the same way you can get it from an Afrocentric perspective. And I want to have that conversation with you, the viewers, because I want you to know how important it is to learn how to equip yourselves intellectually, and to do it in a way that's honest, forthright, and as objective as it can possibly be. Because then you'll learn that a lot of what people are saying, as I tell Mike all the time, it showed me that in my research, I don't want to go out and make the attempt to say things that's preaching to the choir and constantly it sounds good, but when you challenge the information, it's not good and sound.
Right. And yeah, well, very well put. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things is there's very eclectic things on the channel, programming. It's to my taste, but also, black is black on a certain level. So for me, it's kind of tricking the algorithm. Some people, everybody, I love reading the comments when I watch anybody's YouTube video. I think that's a great thing about this platform. But to speak to you in terms of the growth of the channel, yeah, I think it's inevitable that we get to 1 million views. And what's great about more people subscribing and watching regularly is that more people have access to this information. And when I travel, I run into people and they say, wow, like people I talk to, that aren't familiar with Reelblack on YouTube, I always feel like they could learn so much more, just have that option, instead of, and I notice people are shying away. Movie industry's in trouble. Netflix is reaching its saturation point. YouTube, there's unlimited growth in the sense that it doesn't cost anything to get it, and you watch it all over the planet. So one half of me is, how can we grow this platform so that it sustains and all the information remains intact and it's protected, so that generations and generations can discover this. So much of this information, even some videos we put up today, the Kid and Play cartoon, people are like, wow, I don't remember this, or like, I wasn't even born when this happened, but this is dope. So the fact that we don't have to be all in one place at the same time to experience something is so great. And that's the benefit of that. But at the same time, should it go away, we want to have a way to expand upon the information that we've been sharing. But let's go to some of these questions. So Jace Clover, he said, putting fair use comments at the end, it's meaningless. I mean, basically, YouTube is a Wild West where there's a lot of gray area in terms of how, and things are still changing in terms of digital rights management and intellectual property as we go into the 21st century. That's going to be America's biggest thing, is intellectual property, which not just entertainment forms, but patents, apps. The people that control the technology and the information are going to be more profitable than people that are physically making things that need to be shipped, right? So it's great that we have a platform that allows everybody to be in on it. YouTube, they have their very stringent rules about how things operate, and basically it gives us a lot of freedom in terms of things that aren't active to share. And generally the process that we use is, in terms of our sense of can we get away with it, I hate to say it that way, is if it's on other channels, but we're just kind of curating, or if it's something that we originate, or if it's something that, generally the older videos that we share either come from Charles's personal collection, things that news content that he taped off the air, or old movies that have been out of circulation for decades, or things that have existed on other websites, or things that we mine for and curate to cultivate a conversation. So, and we, before we post anything, we have a discussion in terms of, do you think this is worthy? Do you feel it's worth the risk of sharing it, and what the potential consequences of putting things up might be?
Just like showing a film like Moon Over Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And for a film like that we're not the first channel to put it up, but it's been on other uploaders, their channels. But the thing is, what was happening with respect to what Mike is saying regarding the upsurge in our viewers looking at things, and to see Moon Over Harlem reach, I think, close to 10,000 views, that was great. But the comments, it generated a lot of comments, and that's why I suggested to Mike, try Moon Over Harlem, because it just, with the characters' comments talking about Harlem, what it could be like, and then the bad guy, and then one lady looked like she was white, those issues, that generated good conversation. That's why I felt it should go up, because I felt it would generate good conversation.
Right. So a lot of people saying, glad we're back. Hi, Yo Fran, Mike James, Tremaine Carter, Dean Russell. I know Dean Russell. Shout out to Dean Russell. Baby Maxwell loves my Baldwin shirt. Wow, just the whole thing just skipped. Why are you hiding? Who temporarily shut you down? If you go to my Instagram, all that information's there. Basically, I put it on Instagram. I don't want to bring that emotion back into this. We're happy to be back. It's a relief, and we can see that much further. Charles we're here in Atlantic City because we really boiled it down to, all right, if the channel goes away, revenue stream is gone. Why did we start this to begin with? And one of the main things was when I met Charles, he was working on a book, and I said, I can't let this opportunity go by, this window of opportunity disappear without getting this book done. So we're in the process of making that happen, and by the beginning of next year.
Soon, I'm working on, my health has been a problem for me. It's finally been diagnosed what the problem is. So I'm praying that the cure will be sympathetic to my physical being. But the thing is this, one of the things that keeps me preoccupied is always the thirst for knowledge. Don't forget, I came up, we did 2 nights. We did one where we showed Westerns, Bonanza episode, and Sammy Davis Jr. in a thing called Mission. And then the next night we showed a film, Sidney Poitier's first film, 1950, No Way Out. The people who came to those screenings, it was just great to present these films. One lady had a stressful viewing, and I did on both nights because I'm very sensitive, and when I see certain things, it gets me, and I broke down a couple of times because I just hate the way, as I said to the audience, the kind of experience Black people have to go through in this society, the racism, the abuse, the atrocities heaped upon us. It's just sometimes, if you think about it, it can make you want to kill somebody, okay? But what I learned, not just from these 2 presentations, but even like in discussing with Mike when we did the mini lessons, what images to put in from films, I'm learning just how much people have not seen in terms of films. No one saw No Way Out. No one knew anything about these Bonanza episodes. And when I mentioned some other films, no one saw them. So I think it's important that if you want to get an understanding of the present and a projection of what can happen in the future, you have to study the past. And that's what my mission has been, to show you how much the past is always an indication of what the future could be like.
Okay, so we got a question here. Rachel was mentioning WWE superstars, but what is your favorite old school celebrity? Charles, do you have one?
She said WWE.
Well, that's the beginning of her comment, but she's mentioned some of her favorite wrestlers. But
because
in terms of
one of the things I used to do with my wife, we used to take the kids to go see wrestling at Madison Square Garden. That was wonderful for us. But I grew up as a short guy. I learned how to protect myself watching wrestlers. We had Sweet Daddy Siki, Antonio Rocca, the Kangaroo Brothers, Haystacks Calhoun, Arnold Boy Skolin. That's my era.
Okay.
And then when we were going to, as my kids, I would take them. Hulk Hogan was big. We didn't get to see Rock, but Rock became a phenomenon. Rock became the biggest thing in the WWE. And then we used to joke that some of the more realistic fighting, when you go see the wrestling, the more realistic fighting was in the stands between people arguing over if it's real or not real. And then they had to finally come out and say, this is entertainment. But I loved wrestling, and those were the people I mentioned. Those were my superstars.
Just love it. Do you have any profiles, footage, bios on Bass Reeves? I would love to see you guys put something together.
Interesting. Here's something I want to say on Bass Reeves. I have 4 books on Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves, one of the books I'm working on is called Cinema's Colored Cowboys. And I found this very interesting. You know how they want to put a claim on Jesus? Jesus is a white man.
Mm-hmm.
If you say Jesus was black, oh, that's sacrilegious. That's when they say, well, what difference does it make? When you say Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. But Bass Reeves,
for those who don't know,
those who don't know, was arguably the most successful lawman in the history of people who were given a badge and were hired to go out as law enforcers to capture the bad guys. He captured over 3,000 bad guys in, I think it was a 14-year period. He worked in the most dangerous territory at the time, the Indian Territory. And the idea of him being the inspiration for the Lone Ranger character, who I grew up on, Lone Ranger, Clayton Moore, TV. First major Western that was created for TV was the Lone Ranger series. Came from radio. But anyway, Art Burton did a book, and he suggested that Bass Reeves was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger character. Now you have people saying, hell no, that's BS. That's being challenged now. So I think that's interesting. You may want to look that up.
Okay. Well, B-Surf, a lot of people popping in. Somebody watching from London. That's why the channel's so B-Surf. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll wrap up in a minute, but yeah, I mean, that's why it was so important. I mean, I would, when you go through all these things and there's a whole ironic situation. I mean, I never lost faith because I felt like we had enough information that we could get it fixed. But having never been in a situation for the channel to be down for so long was a little stressful. But you resign yourself to, all right, if it goes away, it is what it is. You don't question. I said you don't question God. But we did fight, and I think it came back right on time because we had already planned to do this, but we weren't sure we'd be back on the air in time to live stream with you. So I feel like we're right on time with that. With somebody asked, is there a comprehensive documentary on Ota Benga? I have no idea who Ota Benga is. So
Ota Benga, that's ringing a bell.
Okay,
but
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Not sure. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Oh, review. We were in Atlantic City. We knew we were going to be here for a few days, and the first night we were here, we had a chance to see Chris Tucker from Friday and Rush Hour performing live at the Ocean. Any thoughts on that? We had good seats. We were 4th row center, and great way to experience Chris Tucker live. Any feelings?
I enjoyed Chris. Just seeing him on the stage, and I know that he spoke about the issues he's had, but even his opening act, we enjoyed him. He was funny. We tried to get his name or whatnot, but the thing is, what I was amazed at is just Chris does not have a bad voice. He does a lot of singing in his repertoire, and when he comes on, yeah, I know you always expect him to do his little Michael Jackson antics, but he came on and he said, I can still do it. I can still do it. And he looked great. He was entertaining. I'm wishing him all the best, because one of the toughest things to do is to perform comedy. And comedy becomes so important in our lives because there are moments when we want to get away from all this stressful tragedy we're surrounded by. When people can make you laugh, there's nothing like laughter. And I enjoyed it, and thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a great show. He's an entertainer. I think he's in between specials, so it wasn't a tight hour, but it was a fun hour, and it was a sold out show, so it was great to be here. So let me see. How do you both guys see the message in Spook Who Sat by the Door being implemented by Black filmmakers? That's something we're debating now in Charles's book. Are the filmmakers that are getting the big opportunities Black filmmakers? Are they filmmakers who happen to be Black? And does the system have enough room for messages that are directed specifically at Black people to empower, with the intention of empowering them? Or is that something that you have to find outside of Hollywood, outside of cable, outside of the mainstream, so to speak?
With respect to the Spook Who Sat by the Door, and I touched on it when we did the mini lesson on blaxploitation movies, what it could have been. The spook was an anomaly. Get Out is your present day anomaly. Django Unchained, whether you like him being a slave or not, that's an anomaly. Anything that's put on that screen that has an overall message of being countercultural, subversive, against the status quo, those films, they come out and they become rarities. They don't become popular treatments where they become a genre that they're replicated. The replication for those type of films is non-existent because they're too dangerous. Right. They challenge the system. And that's what we wanted to get into, to discuss that. And that's why we wanted to have the power of the channel to have viewers like you guys. You guys are wonderful, and you're thirsty for knowledge to raise your consciousness. But it must be pointed out from my perspective, and a lot of people don't like what I have to say. They don't agree with me. And I say, you don't have to agree with me. But if what I say you don't like, then tell me what I'm saying is wrong. Show me. But I feel, from my perspective, the films we get are just to perpetuate the status quo. That's technology. And the artists, our artists, if we want them to come into the kitchen, we want them to bring the authenticity of what Blackness is. And we have to define what Blackness is. But we want, when they come in the kitchen, they don't just come in and get the menu and serve us the same old meals.
Dean's trying to start trouble. I hope Dean goes to Black Star this year. There's going to be a lot of conversation. Spike Lee just got added to the bill. He's going to be in conversation. A lot of new work here in Philadelphia Black Star Film Festival coming up. I don't know. I think it's an ongoing conversation. I don't know enough of what people are doing to say yay or nay. Are people being co-opted into the system willingly or unwillingly? I think a lot of the trend right now is towards social justice and representation, so it's in an attempt to right a lot of wrongs. We are seeing a lot of people testifying over their pain. And to me, I don't know if that is of service to a Black audience. I think a lot of what we're getting now, not to say any movie is easy to get made, but a lot of it is reflective of the fact that we have Trump in the White House, and there are a lot of liberal-minded white people that don't feel the way that Trump is. They're not bigots, and they want to create opportunities for marginalized voices, women, Black, gay, lesbian, trans, to be represented within this mass media situation. So I think it's being sorted out in the sense that, the collateral damage could be that general audiences that are Black will walk out of movies typically feeling underrepresented or traumatized, so because we're not a monolith, not everything speaks to us. And then the entertainment that we're getting, also a lot of it is going straight to these streaming services because big money is not being spent on Black films, and we're not quite at a level where there is a saturation point of Black filmmakers that can just take over Hollywood budgets. But I think if you project into 10 years, it may or may not be a bad thing. I think any movie, there's a level of compromise that I'm not comfortable with in terms of how things are cast. It doesn't speak to me necessarily to see a range of actors. It's not organic to the situation as it's written. But it remains to be seen whether folks are being co-opted into the system or just being given an opportunity to make things that are designed to reach more people. But I think the system operates a certain way, and if you want to play that game, you have to know the rules. No.
Well, I know you.
I'm trying to be safe. Black Star's coming up. I don't want to. I don't hurt anybody's feelings. Who's looking for that big opportunity? They've been working 10, 20, 15 years. They've made a hot movie, and their dream is to have them work within the Hollywood system. I just have yet to see anything, Black, white, yellow, anything come through that system that's not compromised. So if you're going in there with this belief system that you're going to make a change, more power to you. But I would love it if, for every dollar a Black filmmaker gets paid, they take 10 cents of it and use it to build a self-sustaining system outside of where we get our money for. The same way if we go to a restaurant, how much of that money that we spend at the restaurant goes back to the community, goes back to creating awareness of, okay, maybe this shit ain't really what you should be eating tonight. Something healthier, better for you, a little more conscious. But I don't know, is that wishful thinking on my part, Charles?
No, I just feel, Claude Anderson, he has his Powernomics. And, when he talks about race, he said, people have to understand race, if we look at it from a so-called racial perspective, in terms of Black, white, Asian, polka dot, whatever, we're looking at race as a construct based on color. He said, but the way to really look at race is that race connotes competition. It's a competitive game. And if we don't get in the game with the idea of being winners, then we're always going to come out losers. Okay. So the thing is, we often hear where people have this pejorative look at the Jewish people when they founded Hollywood. But they did that to have power in the messaging, the communication system. They want to have some control of that, because they know without control in the communication system, what that could lead to. It could lead to the disaster that they faced when Hitler scapegoated them. Mm-hmm. It was through, Hitler hired his own filmmakers, mm-hmm. Okay, because film was weaponized. It was used to propagandize against the Jews. And the Jews they set up the Hollywood industry. They wanted to make sure that a message would go out, and the films as a whole that would promote racial tolerance, equality. But they couldn't tell their own stories because those stories would not sell. Even the image of Christ, which is approximating Michelangelo's imagery, Jeffrey Hunter, King of Kings, Charlton Heston's, Moses, as I spoke about that, they've taken the Jewishness from Jesus. He doesn't look like, you know, what's a Jew look like from the biblical times. Mm-hmm. But if you want to question whether he was white, we know one thing. If you can't say for certain he was white or black, we know there's no way in hell he could look like Jeffrey Hunter in that part of the world. Mm-hmm. But the Jews had no control over that, because here's the point I'm getting to. We have to understand Sweetback, Melvin Van Peebles. He said there's a golden rule. He who controls the purse controls the message. Films are made for commercial reasons. And blackness, if we're talking about representation, you don't get blackness just because Denzel Washington is on the screen, Jamie Foxx is on the screen. You may say black because they're black skin color wise, but Clarence Thomas is black. He's not the same judge that Thurgood Marshall was. Mm-hmm. And I say, you know, we went from Thurgood to no good. We have to define blackness, but the main thing we have to understand is that the images we get is for commodification purposes. That came out when you had the emails, and they said we could have made more money with the Equalizer if we didn't have Denzel Washington as a star. These people don't give a damn about blackness.
Right. So, and we have some things coming up the pike that will address that. I think there's one I want to keep under my hat for right now, but for those who are interested, we have on the slate, I'm going to do a phone interview with Dr. Juwanza Kunjufu in the next few weeks. Before the end of the month, it'll be up for you. So for all the people that have watched the Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys video, we're going to talk to the gentleman who created that, who wrote the book, and get his take on what's going on today. So, and that should be very interesting for me. But yeah, it's an ongoing conversation, something that's been going on. I think the technology is great because it's connecting people, and we're seeing that it's not just the feeling that you have. It's really, there's empirical proof out there to show what systemic racism is about, where we can find our place in the world, and how we can learn and grow. So Pinnacle Power, the new James Bond movie will have a British black woman in the lead. She won't replace James Bond, but will take over his spot from what I read. Well, she's not necessarily in the lead. It's still Daniel Craig is James Bond. It's that he's retired from MI6 or whatever it is. So they assigned the new number 007. It's going to be a black woman who has 007, but it's not that they're making a female black James Bond. It's just she's coming in as a character to bring some sexual tension to the table, is my understanding. But they're filming the movie now. It definitely blew up Twitter, that piece of information. And also the Little Mermaid being cast live action as black. There's a lot of racist stuff going on about that. People not comfortable with their fantasy figures being cast in different hues. Any feeling on that? Or?
Well, it's typical white privilege BS. You know, what we get. And when I say white privilege, you know, qualified, and the powerful elite, they want to do things that's satisfying to, they still see themselves as the majority. Okay, anything we get on the screen with respect to black representation is a consequence of reaction. The squeaking door always gets the oil. But the one thing they don't want to relinquish is that their image is always supreme, and anything that's non-white is in a subordinate position. That's why this is a compromised perspective. The first thing that, when we talked about a black James Bond, they had Idris Elba as the potential star, and that raised a lot of ire. but they rather do it with a woman now because they don't want to give on that screen more images of black men in a sexual, powerful role. And then the other thing is, when you look at what's happening in motion pictures, we have the Me Too movement, and a lot of the film action stars now are women. I remember I'm looking at Captain Marvel, and I'm waiting for Captain Marvel to come on, and the hero is a woman, you know, and all these movies coming out with women. So that's the thing that's going on. That's Hollywood. They don't have a clue. They just say, okay, this looks like it's the hot thing now, and they'll keep giving it to us. And then the only thing that'll turn that off is when the box office, the money's not jingling.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's exciting to see a black Little Mermaid or black woman being cast in the live action Little Mermaid, and Disney certainly has gone as far as any studio, even back in the '90s, to create opportunities for black filmmakers. Also been accused of some of the Song of the South type stuff too. But Queen of Katwe, I think, out of all the Disney stuff, that's my favorite.
I loved it.
In terms of
no one saw it,
creating an opportunity for a story to be told from the perspective of, in this case, Africans, and uplifting. It had all the hallmarks of what a coming of age movie should be. And
what about
that exists?
Men in Black? There's a black woman teamed up with a white guy also.
Couldn't tell you what it was about. Go see that shit.
It's a bomb. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's about being progressive, and somebody's got to make the change, or else it's always going to be the same thing and the same complaints. Not every movie's designed to be good. A lot of movies, are made just to fill a release slot.
Who out there went to see Shaft with
that's
Sam Jackson?
That's another case. I mean, a lot of this stuff is done by committee. So I'm going to put my hat in the ring, but I don't expect. It's a collaborative art, and whoever's spending the money, they have to have a say in it. They might let you come in and, hey, here's a box of crayons, can you color in these lines for us? But ultimately, and this is a conversation that's been had since the beginning of the technology, we need to have our own separate self-sustaining industry. But it's so seductive. It's worse than the damn NBA, right? The NBA, half the players end up broke right after, as soon as their contract is over, they're broke because they've struggled so hard just to get to the NBA. They don't see beyond that. And a lot of them, it's not only their dream to be in the NBA, but it's a survivor's remorse. It's like the whole family's dream and all this other stuff. So we come in at a disadvantage to film that some white kids have. In my experience, a lot of white kids, they grew up with Super 8 cameras and stuff, and then I never had the resources to have that kind of equipment and practice and do all that stuff. And now we're at a stage where you can have a hot Instagram and get an opportunity to make a film or make your own film. But it's so seductive to go into that Hollywood dream, that Hollywood system, that I think, to answer Dean's question, it's almost you seduce yourself. You don't need a group of people at a table to say, we take the best and the brightest. It was a dinner table speech. We take the best and the brightest and we turn them into us. I think there's such a willingness to not see that bucket run out of water, that you'll do once you get into it. It's kind of, you're already playing the game. It's hard to maintain integrity when they make it so difficult. So, like I said, the only thing now, the more people doing it, there are more people in executive streets. So unfortunately, not very many, if any, people of color in a position of power to greenlight a movie. And then back to audiences, we have to support these things where it makes sense. We have to be vocal, not just on Twitter when somebody does something wrong, but be vocal about what we want to see, and then maybe we'll have a better chance of seeing it. But I think the game is so big. If you're trying to buck the system, you're not going to get in. So there's enough people that want to play ball. Unless you have your own ball and your own glove and your own bat, it's going to be very difficult to start a game. So, if you have a killer script or you make a hot movie and people feel strongly about it, that's the way to maintain your integrity. But there's just too many. I think there's just too many people willing to make compromise for you to see real change in the system. And like you said just now, it's really about your ability to make money for anybody that keeps you going. So not to be pessimistic, although that sounded incredibly pessimistic, you know, I want to see change. I think that's why we're doing the channel. I think that's why you're writing Technology, not to just to make more people aware of how our minds as an audience are being controlled through this propaganda that comes through our screens that are now everywhere, including your pocket.
Well, I mean, my studies just go to, how people use film, they use the Bible, they use anything they can to perpetuate this status quo, to keep the system going. And that's technology. They use the Bible for technology. They use the screen for technology. They're all putting out misinformation, disinformation. And the reason why they do that, because the way you have a system continue to exist, you have the strategy that is the oldest strategy in the world, and that's divide and conquer. And so, when we have blacks fighting whites, black men against black women, how can you create a family if you want to be Afrocentric and say, I don't want anything to do with anyone else, it's about black family first? I agree. But the thing is, the humankind, mankind, the way it's going to exist is when we stop looking at each other or others as being different. We have more in common than we don't have in common. There's more that unites us than we should use to allow others to divide us. And there are so many things that people have to know. Like I said, when they go to look at things, they have to be objective and to see what is the main objective of the people who control the narrative, politically, socially, economically. It's about divide and conquer, and it's been used from day one, and it will continue. And the only thing that can change it is when we look at the system that is in place, how it's codified and covertly used to do just that, separate us on BS.
Right. And
the only way we will be able to gain control is if Oscar Micheaux did it with nothing. He was putting films out there. So don't tell me that we don't have enough black folk to create our own black, powerful cinematic industry, where if we want to make movies that are about something, that are about black authenticity, true black imagery, it can happen. I mean, if you bring up basketball, billions and billions of dollars were just exchanged to see that Kawhi goes here, Kyrie goes there. Men like what LeBron's doing with his money, trying to help kids. When we have black folk with that consciousness to know that it isn't always about buying the Maseratis and the expensive watches, where the black basketball players and the black sports figures who made this kind of money years ago. Just the other day, I think they had an article about Sean Kemp getting ready to do maybe a McDonald's type job, and these guys went through so much. Antoine Walker's, all these people went through so much money, and if you ask them for a dime, just a percentage of the money they earned to use it as a tax deduction to go to help your people, how much we would have accomplished as a people. You know, if the Claude Andersons can get to these people, the Kwanzaa Kunjufu can get to these people. Just imagine if we raise the consciousness of our people who are making a lot of money, how far we can go with it.
Yeah, well, it's the same old song, if you ask me. But I absolutely agree with you. I mean, and my thing is the need for a self-sustaining industry is that these things tend to go in cycles and waves, and you never, if you're not in control, if you're not above the wave, you can't really see where you are in the wave. And you know, I think it's great what's happening now. It's all because there's more platforms. There's a political tension here in terms of conversations about race, doors being open for creating a lot more opportunities for people, but you never know when it's going to close. And if you have your own door and people are in agreement to support it, then you can stay open. We have to, you know, we have our doors here. We try to keep them open. And, you know, I think the little setback that we had recently just made us more focused and concentrated, more proactive, not to be caught in that situation again. And I think we operate from clear intention. And, you know, our goal is to stay here forever, to have these resources that we're compiling available to everybody on the planet at all times. So we're going to work harder to make sure that we're protected. Yes, so you got Miss Gang Smashers, you saw a note?
No, that's it, but and we love Miss Gang Smashers.
Yeah.
God bless her.
You saw one?
I just didn't want to forget.
Sure.
One of the greatest things you can do to support us is to put the word out. Tune in to Reelblack. Just let it run.
Yeah.
Let it run. But we want to do so many things, and you guys are our inspiration. Mike came up with Who Did It Better? And I said, I love music. And the response to that has been great. Other things, what are things you would like to see us do? Let us know, you know, because we always ask, what kind of movies you like? How old are you? Why are you tuning into the channel? You know, we want to grow, and we want to grow together with you. And we just, first of all, if we, you know, you never know, tomorrow we could be shut down again, right? God forbid. But the thing is,
well, we're here for you, and we have good
we
intentions.
appreciate you. You're so important, and we love you.
I would say we're not going anywhere. We just know the rules better. You know, sometimes you have to go through these things to get to better things. So, you know, I think we're more focused, more intentioned. You know, you have to look at both sides of it. If it continues, what are we going to do to keep it growing? And if it goes away, what lessons are there to be learned from that? But you know, we try to operate, do our best to maintain our integrity, operate within the system that's in place, and right now we prevailed. You know, so but it's inevitable that we keep growing, Charles. We can't be stopped. So Miss Gang Smashers asks, what biopic would you like to see first, Jack Johnson or Joe Louis? I think they've already been done, but you know.
Miss Gang Smashers, why'd you bring that up? Because let me tell you, I had a special mini lesson I had prepared, and guess what it was about? King Kong represents Jack Johnson, and guess who represents Joe Louis? Mighty Joe Young. And I was going to explain the reason why I came to that conclusion. But we've done Jack Johnson. Even Ken Burns did a wonderful documentary, Unforgivable Blackness. But I would like to see Joe Louis's story, because that was a tragedy. Another tragedy. You had three black men, well, two black men. Someone wrote a book on Joe Louis and Jesse Owens together. And that's two tragedies right there. But I would say Joe Louis, Miss Gang Smash.
Okay. Well, and I'm generally against biopics, or biopics as the millennials would say. But the one that I feel would have the most success out of anything would be a Donny Hathaway, because somebody we know a lot about his music, but we don't have those strong images in our head about his appearance, or we don't all know his story. So I think what dooms biopics is when the audience has more information going in than the movie can reveal in 2 hours. And then, like the James Brown was a disappointment for me. I mean, even though Chadwick did a good job, it was still a disappointment for me. And I think, not to temper people's expectations, but I think that's a story that there's a lot of good actors out there could play him, and I think the music speaks for itself, and you can build a strong narrative around. I think Sam Cooke would have been a great one a few years ago, but at this point now, I think the audience has just gone for a Sam Cooke biopic. If they'd done it 20 years ago, it would have been a massive success, but they just took too long.
Eddie Murphy wanted to do Jackie Wilson.
Yeah, I think that all that is aged out. And then the truth be told, I don't think you can really get an honest biopic on Sam Cooke, because he had he was like like people are finding out things now about different characters. R. Kelly's in the news. Sam Cooke had a little bit of that going on in terms of his Christian image and his real life hedonism. So
I got some new stuff on Martin Luther King.
Yeah, so I don't know if in this day and age, you could even make a movie about some of these people without questioning their dark side in a way that might hurt the pre-existing audience. Okay, we're over an hour, Charles. Alexander, I appreciate you hung on the entire hour. Now you get Straight Outta Compton was a great documentary. Marvin Gaye is so late. They should have done that years ago. I think honestly, there's still a huge audience for Marvin Gaye biopic if they did it right. But Sam Cooke, I think, missed its time.
With Marvin Gaye, do you feel he got cheated with that album? What's going on?
What do you mean?
Wasn't it up against?
For Grammys, you mean?
Yeah, for the Grammy.
Yeah, it was a shame. Well, Marvin Gaye didn't win a Grammy until Sexual Healing, but that also speaks to what Berry Gordy's position in the recording industry. I think maybe the Temptations had won one, but he was not a signatory of the Recording Association of America, RIAA. He wasn't a part of it, so he didn't report his sales. He was really, as much as they were selling records and getting radio play, they were not really in the industry like that to be getting that kind of social acceptance. Even their TV specials were done for ABC, which was a new network. It was almost like being on the WB back in the day. They needed product, and Berry Gordy came in, but they were not, you have to wait till the Big Chill to really get some global acceptance for Motown music. It still was, as popular as it was not what the industry wanted to celebrate.
And if you told the Jackie Wilson story, you know who's going to be a part of that?
Who's that?
Berry Gordy.
Yeah, he wrote us a few of his hits for sure. The DeBarge, the TV One and BET, they've been doing a great job with their biopics. I love the New Edition one. I didn't see the DeBarge one. The Aaliyah, all that stuff for Lifetime was garbage, but I think BET, they stepped it up with that New Edition.
Unsungs are wonderful.
Yeah, shout out to Unsung. We had to take all the Unsungs down. Don't look for any more Unsung on Reelblack TV. Go somewhere else for your Unsungs.
How are people recording things off TV now?
Let's not talk about that here.
No,
let's not talk about this here. Come on, we just got out of trouble. You trying to?
I'm so curious because what I'm saying technologically.
We're trying to get out of here.
We had that as an option, but
and we
no
don't
longer exist anymore. And
trying to get some trouble.
No, I'm just
tell people
saying that's the thing that you lose. You no longer have it.
Well, you just keep paying the bill and hope it comes back on. You don't have to sit there and buy VHS tapes like we used to back in the day, bricks of Sony 120s and shit. You just keep paying the bill and then they'll stay there. But yeah, I agree with everybody. But again, it's just, I think we got everything. So this is our last night here in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Charles is.
I go back to my wife and daughter. I was hoping to see my other daughter, but she was busy. But like I say, I go back home, get on my regimen. This guy puts 40, 50 pounds on me, but that's my fault. I got to be a little more
They do have salads at the buffet.
Right.
They do have fruit at the buffet. But
this guy, let me tell you, hey, you can't have a better friend.
we're working hard. We're trying to get it right. So and forever, hopefully, like I said the whole time, this is just a hiccup. The most frustrating thing of not being on wasn't, recognizing that you guys really, some of the notes were like, wow, we really need you back. And we're working hard for that. Just not having the power to do anything, feeling helpless, feeling like, oh my God, all these people are disappointed. That hurt me the most. And then, as you said, the reasons why, I think were a lesson for everybody.
I missed it. Because a lot of times I tune to the channel and there's so much on YouTube that anyone walking around stupid today, it's on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much you can learn. For example, if I had a problem with I had a problem setting up my printer. I hadn't used it in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to YouTube. People go to YouTube for how to do issues, problem issues. So,
yeah,
that's great.
We'll go. Rock playing John Henry. I mean, I talked about it, I think, on the radio. I don't have a problem with it per se, but because it goes, he's too light skinned to play John Henry. Well, he's got the money to play whatever the fuck he wants, and until we challenge it.
Well, they have dark makeup.
Well, Rock ain't gonna do that.
Dorothy Dandridge. They put dark makeup on Dorothy Dandridge. They had to darken Herb Jeffries when he played the Black Cowboy. They had to darken him. When you see him on screen, you don't see him in his natural skin tone.
Well, there are very few people in a position of power like a Rock to be able to get any movie made. The fact that he wants to tell a story about a Black, folklore legend, more power to him. If it works out,
and you have a greater chance, not to cut you, but you have a greater chance of going to see John Henry if The Rock is playing him than if you had Sam Jackson playing.
Right.
Sam Jackson can't open up a movie by himself.
Well, I don't know if it's either or. I'm just saying, back to the golden rule.
That's the fact.
Back to the golden rule. He can play anything. The fact that he's acknowledging his heritage, I think, is a nice look. And I hope it doesn't come off the way Nina Simone did, but at the end of the day, I've kind of divorced myself, quite frankly, from the outcome on these movies, because it's a different experience now watching movies than it was when we grew up, where it really was mythology. It really was a special thing. Most of the stuff is just done as product at this point. Very little of it really sticks in the zeitgeist, and I'm just putting more energy into what is the next thing.
Well, tell a good story.
How do we connect with
That's first
people?
and foremost, all right? If you told the Plessy versus Ferguson story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This guy looked more white than black. I'm surprised he didn't sit up there in the front of the car, because he was 1/8 black.
Mm. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I like The Rock if he thinks he can pull it off. If he's look, he had me convinced of a lot of. He really commits to a role. So if he wants to do John Henry, I'm okay with it. But I'm not buying into the colorism the same way that it's a fictional character, folks. I mean, I can't get upset. Talk about Little Mermaid being black. If somebody thinks they can make $1 off it, then they'll do it. But it's our choice. We have so many choices now whether to watch something. I don't get upset like I used to, or representation. I'm really after justice. Are these movies speaking to me? Are they over compromised to the point where they're trying to play to a broad imaginary audience and not getting to the truth? And there's so many problems we as Black folks in this whole planet have that can be addressed through mythology, through folklore, through motion pictures, through music. And by the time it gets to us, it doesn't feel right. It just, there's some little thing in it, the technology, or maybe bad casting, or you know, it's just, that's the thing that frustrates me the most, that very few films speak to me in a way. I mean, I would say Get Out was the last movie I saw that I really connected with on an emotional
Comes The
level.
Color. One book I've been holding back is The Color of Christ, according to the Bible. And you know, I challenge anyone to go to the Bible and show me where it says Jesus was black or white. There's nothing in the Bible that says he was black or white. You think people like me for that? But it's the truth.
Right. Well, yeah. Corporate filmmaking, yeah, the movies have to play, they have to open the same day all over the planet at the same time. So it's just like it's homogenized milk or watered down. It just doesn't taste the same as when I was younger. And I don't think it's my relationship to the experience. I think that they're putting in filler. You know, there's, if you, and you go back and investigate, you know, McDonald's French fries don't taste the same for a reason, you know. And my man Malcolm Gladwell did a whole podcast on why. It's because they stopped using beef fat. So, you know, our job is to find out what they took out of the, well, they never were in movies to begin with, to bring some beef fat to motion pictures. That's the mission that we're on here at Reelblack, and we hope that you stay with us. And thank you for spending time with us. JDW, you're just tuning in. Charles, the person asked about his take on Little Mermaid. He did speak about it. If you're tuning in late, watch the replay. Final words, how do you close this out, sir?
We're back. We love you. We're glad we have this platform once again. And I just want you to know, for the people out in Louisiana, stay safe. And for all of the Reelblack family, peace and blessing.
Yeah, shout out to Tariq Nasheed. Yeah, I do want to see Hidden Colors 5. All right, thanks everybody. And we're gonna have the George Wallace interview up before the end of the week. Be editing it tonight, and more surprises real soon. Peace, family. Have a good night.